Well, one of the things that is so amazing about this movie, I mean, the level of authenticity that you achieve, and it's kind of impossible to discern. I know you like to mix up real actors with non-professionals, and sort of I dare people to tell which is which in this movie, which I think is very high praise. I'd be interested to hear what it's like both for you as a director, if there's a certain way you like to work with actors and non-professionals at the same time, and what it's like for you as cast members, how different that is, or not different from just working with other professional actors, and how you have to adapt to that.
The mixing of actors with different experiences is a rich thing to get involved with. It's always different, and there are a lot of almost like caveats with it. You know, one of the major ones is that when in a film someone's asked to perform who's had no formal training, almost the surest way to get something that can work and the person can actually thrive in this new setting of being in a film set is to have someone that does this in their real life, that what they are performing is something they know extremely well. So in this film, the recruiter, Sergeant Russell Schock, is a recruiter. So he was performing something that he is so steeped in, that he has a profound sense of how to ask these questions, how to deal with people in the age range of Ridali. He knows the rules and the true wording of how the Army phrases and its requirements. It's, same thing I was thinking when you get someone like a public defender to really play themselves. Whatever state you're in, whatever county, that public defender will never have to memorize what's a Class B felony or they'll know. And with that, they can really rattle that off in a way that they would late night when they are called in for the late night court. They're just myriad teachers, therapists, counselors, people that have had prison experience. It just, when people have something really that they publicly perform, then most likely when the cameras roll, they will still, I mean, he had a look in the eyes of Jennifer, and, he was frightened, it was unnerving for him, but he had an anchor in the scene, which was the trained actor, the very trained actor, the person that was going to always be there for him every take, and that would swing with him if he changed up the lines, which he did, I think every take, the order of how the interview proceeded. Jen was there with her flexibility, and because she was so present, it wasn't like she was expecting him to say, X, Y, or Z. She heard him every single time, and she would always answer him, and she would really answer from the reality of Ridali's life. Yes, she knew she had a brother and sister. She knew their ages. She knew their dad, that it was impossible for her dad and mom to sign. So to me, the sweet spot is the trained actor with the open heart, with the interest, who can swing with that, and the person who has the lived experience trying to bring that to the scene, and the two of them are going to have some kind of intense chemistry. Often, it can backfire. Someone who can perform those in everyday life, when the formality of the set is assembled, the quiet occurs, rolling is called. Even if you whisper rolling, or if you say when you're ready, or if you say, it's going to be a tail slate, no matter what, that silence is felt and it's palpable, and some people cannot flourish in that setting. So it's not a recipe that I feel ever assured about or cocky about. It's nothing I, can guarantee, but it's something I definitely, because of all the neorealist films that I adore in the world, will always have an attraction to.
I know you were working with kids who I think hadn't acted before.
Yeah, and that's what we loved about them. We tried as hard as we could to make sure that they weren't acting. So all of those scenes were pretty much improv.
Really? Yeah.
For myself, I'm not being coy. I always feel like when I go to a region and work with a non-actor who's from there and has the dialect and has the background of the area, I feel like, honestly, I'm trying to keep up on some level. So I learn a lot from them, you know, while we're working between takes, whatever. I'm always just trying to pay attention, but it didn't feel really like us and them, and that was a really great thing. I felt like it was something we were all trying to make happen together.
I think sort of the same thing that John said. We were learning from them just as much, you know, saying, what might this be, or how would you do this? And we were in these people's houses. They were just living and being themselves. So a lot like he said, we were trying to keep up because at some points they were probably doing it better than we were.
I'll just add that particularly I think in the barn scene, and we did rehearse that. I think one time we met in the lobby of the hotel we were staying in with all of particularly the most of the men and the guy playing Thump, Ronnie. And we bounced around some lines, and you listened to some feedback that they had of what might really go on, and we just sort of kept mining it, and we, just from watching them and being with them, gained a lot of tremendous insight that really added to the reality of the scenes, I think.
I read in one piece that, Debra, you were at one point actually shot 2 somewhat different endings and weren't sure which one to go with. I'd love to know what that other ending was.
There were slight variations in the sense that John and I really had some serious discussions about this. You know, whether it be the female thing, the vanilla, you know, there's something that I got such a huge affection for Teardrop on the page in Daniel's book, and you know, despite this gnarly, impenetrable, gruff, difficult person, the fact that the degree to which he comes through for Ree in the ways that he can, you know, he got me, you know, as a difficult but yet someone who I felt like I wish Ree could do something to help him. Basically, I kind of got that desperate feeling as a reader, like, God, could she ever say anything that could stop him? You know, what if she yelled out, "Just stay for dinner"? You know, like, you know, I'm not going to try to control you, Teardrop. I'm not going to, you know, try to cajole you. I know that would be really wrong, but you know, just a simple request. Would he turn around? Could he stay? You know, I didn't think he could stay, but I thought Ree would ask, and or might try that, and then we contemplated an ending in editing where Teardrop doesn't declare that it's still eating at him. He says goodbye to her in a more silent way, so that verbally it's not as demarcated that he, you know, because clearly in the end, in this ending, he shares with her that it's playing heavy on his mind, and then he got more, you know, additional information that's upsetting him, and so we tried one without that line and without the sense that we were pinning him to that place in the end of the film. He left on a note in where you weren't sure. You know, he just, with his eyes, he said goodbye to her. You know, this was a difficult thing because many people responded to the character Morris Daniel had written it, which is that this person does have a tragic destiny, you know, and hearkening to a more formal understanding of a tragic hero. And like I say, that soft spot was I had to at least try it. I had to try it.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned Daniel Woodrell, who's a wonderful writer. I don't know how many of you know his books. He's kind of a literary favorite, but a secret that the public hasn't discovered. And I was struck by how faithful, in many respects, your movie is to his book, which is it's hard to make a good movie out of a good book. Usually works the other way. And his dialogue is very stylized on the page, but it sounds very natural the way that you all perform it. Did he collaborate with you in any sense on this?
He didn't collaborate on the actual working of the screenplay, but he did help launch the research at the very beginning of the project, and he was our touchstone for investigating, coming to the Ozarks, physically showing up, and then being linked up to some important veins of information, be it cultural information, folklore, history, be it the sheriff and what was happening in the meth scene. So he was a very crucial link to setting us off on this journey of research. And Anne and I adhered extremely closely. we weren't equipped to change the dialogue, nor the wording. In the end, actors did have to massage some of it.
Yeah.
And then we have a range here. John adored the book as written and was meticulous about the wording of Teardrop's monologues, and felt really impassioned. And many times I had to say to you, if you can say it, man, I stumble, I struggle. That's me, very Eastern, can't do it. And you were down for, and so our agreement was, he could always try the full tilt, and if I ever needed to push the button of saying can we do a slight redux on that, we would do both kinds of takes, and rarely, because you mastered it so beautifully, there was rarely a time that panic occurred. And then way back when we first came down, Lauren and some colleagues of hers in Springfield read the script out loud, and that was so helpful. There were a couple words that they turned to me and Anne and said, exotic, not current, not, and Daniel, wow, maybe my greatest aunt possibly said that in her childhood. Take it out, basically. And Daniel is also a conservator of the vocabulary and idioms of his region. So, he on the written page. So there were instances where something absolutely belonged in his book but couldn't be spoken easily. Yeah. And then we had people right from the land we were shooting on. Dale got along famously with Kat Layson, who was the daughter of the property owner of the primary location. And we many times people turned to her just to ask her to watch the monitor. Did you buy that? Look, and they knew we didn't want them to gas us, or, it was like, did you really believe that? And that was very helpful that we had people watching our back on that level. And we always have to invoke. You can kick me afterwards, but your mom. Just
It's not like that.
I know, but she was she's an expert.
Easy.
She's an expert from Kentucky, and we had to ask them a couple of times, your folks, about certain phrases.
My dad told us what "come the nut cutting" meant.
Yeah, we had to really ponder that one for a year.
Castration.
And Anne and I, though we loved that phrase, we never felt totally sure that we totally understood it.
I don't know if it was because it was mainly New York crew or what, but it was. All I'm saying is that it was rare to work on a project where it felt like there was a great deal of no bullshit and respect between crew and cast to try to help each other tell the story in the best way. And it's a rare thing where it feels like you can. During an emotional scene or something, or just a quiet scene, how the set, without anyone yelling through a megaphone or whatever, would just get very quiet before, while you were getting ready to work. And I think that the crew often worked better that way, and I feel like they were really helped the cast as well, and hopefully we all helped each other.
For me specifically, this was my first professional film that I've done, so I'm looking at the IMDb's of these people and thinking, oh my gosh, I'm not on this playing field at all. But it was not like that at all. It was really a collaborative effort, and no one was, there's the pecking order, but it was just a collaborative effort, and I felt just as comfortable being there, I think, as everyone else did.
I think I'll just say two things that come to mind that were very meaningful to us. One thing that John did, he, again, in the meticulous work that you did on behalf of the character, you had decided on some markings that you would apply to your body, and again, on a low-budget production, there's not like a specific person to assist you with that every day, and so John collaborated with the makeup artist and and basically they came up with a prototype for what you would do, and then you proceeded to enact that day after day. It was arduous. It was a lot of hours to get yourself in that situation, and that to me, that's in a low-budget film, that has to happen. Someone's got to want that, an actor's got to want that, and then has to figure out, what kind of collaboration feels right, but basically it's making something that you desired happen through your own commitment. And that the shoot was filled with that. And I think another way that I feel, I'm going to just suggest something that I observed in your collaboration, which was, that you had told me that it was interesting to learn, that you were always feeling like you were learning from who you were, from working with Dale, from working with John. And I think when there is this hunger and this interest and it doesn't feel jaded, something usually very electric is going to come from that, because people are making it very real. Jen was giving a huge amount back to you. You were giving no one was just sort of riding it through, And I think when actors start to do that with each other, the strongest work will come from that.
And also, this was the only, I noticed this like 2 screenings ago. This is the only movie I've ever done where I literally know every single person on the credits. Know them personally. I mean, we just like really became a family, except you.
That shoot was very blessed. We were given, the auction wasn't shut down, but Jack Frost, who runs the auction, gave us free range to be there. And he really made the shoot just utterly possible by saying we could shoot both in the pen, we could shoot in the auction. He found, with the assistance from the, production, the men that were willing to be filmed that day, and we knew where they were sitting, and all the protocols of a regular shoot. And we had very small amount of equipment, but we did have one dolly that could run on the railings, so that that could be pulled back as we ran towards it. So it was a very small piece of equipment that just sat right on the railings and went by. And with that lighting, Michael McDonough is someone he is Scottish, but that's a little bit irrelevant, but he does really enjoy the work of a lot of British DPs who aren't afraid of blasting, who aren't afraid of different color temperatures. Even though that room, the auction, was very yellow, because we were working with the real fluorescence, and the actual pen was icy blue just because it was the cold outside light. He embraced that, and he allowed it to blow, and so even when we got into post, and of course the timer says, do you want us to try to suppress that band of light? He's like, no, we were pleased that it blew out. And so he's trying to push himself to be very adventurous with lighting that doesn't always have to be so coiffed and controlled, and he pushes himself.
I wish we had more time, but I want to thank you all so much for being here, and thank you.